Oh hi, don't you miss the good old days? You know the ones, the days when your 40s were considered old age and you could just as easily die from cholera or rats riddled with disease. For some of us, the 90s weren't all CD-ROMs and watching The Matrix. I want to discuss nostalgia and the sometimes dangerous effects of it. There's a movie playing right now that uses nostalgia as one of its main themes. Ready Player One is Steven Spielberg's latest movie. It's based on this book. So let's talk about it. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline was published in 2011. I read it a few years after and thought it was, a fun read. It's a good pulp novel meant to be thrilling without trying to be the next book by Neil Stephenson. First, let me read you something. This comes from page 364 of my paperback of the book, and it goes like this. Halliday slid the bookshelf back into place, concealing the button once again. Then, he startled me by putting his arm around my shoulders. Listen, he said, adopting a confidential tone. I need to tell you one last thing before I go. Something I didn't figure out for myself until it was already too late. He led me over to the window and motioned out at the landscape stretching out beyond it. I created the oasis because I never felt at home in the real world. I didn't know how to connect with the people there. I was afraid for all my life, right up until I knew it was ending. That was when I realized, as terrifying and painful as reality can be, it's also the only place where you can find true happiness. Because reality is real. Do you understand? Yes, I said. I think I do. Even in the book, there is an attempt to show that only living your life in reverence of media is a flawed outlook. Reality is real. It's a bit pat, but still has a truth that's important to remember. It's a phrase that shouldn't necessarily need to be said, but holds a lot of power, like, with great power comes great responsibility, or you should be able to host a Twitch stream without being racist. There are definite criticisms of the book, and that's partly to do with Gamergate. I'm not going to go into the specifics here, but I'll leave a link to the Wikipedia article about it in the description. But because of that event, what seemed like harmless fun has now turned toxic. For me, what was more apparent was that this was a story that seemed to rely more on references of geek culture instead of creating a great story that paid homage to them. It's the Family Guy syndrome. There are no characters in that show, just vessels to feed jokes through. And yet, in both Ready Player One or Family Guy, we might have a twinge of feeling. Oh, I get that. I understand that reference. And that brings upon a brief bout of nostalgia similar to a Southern aristocrat being caught with the vapors. Being a bit of a word nerd, nostalgia has a cool etymology. Its modern definition didn't really come about until the beginning of the 1900s. Now it's supposed to mean a wistful yearning of the past. It seems to originally have come from the late 1600s from a few different places. The Greek is the most interesting. We have nostos, which means homecoming, and algos, which translates to pain, grief, or distress. Combine them together and you have a severe homesickness considered a disease. And I think that disease is infecting our current world. There seems to be a devotion to 80s pop culture in our current media. There are the hits like Stranger Things for sure, but we also have movies like It and the popularity of that short film Kung Fury. We also have stuff from the 80s continuing on their life, like how Indiana Jones continues to be resurrected. And then there are the reboots or reimaginings of things like One Day at a Time and Roseanne, or people losing their minds trying to get a NES or Super NES to play for 5 minutes. Right now, we seem to love the 80s because so many adults with disposable income were children during the 80s, and there's this false belief that everything was great then. I mean, to be fair, I'm one of them. I was mostly distracted by Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6 rather than the emergence of AIDS or the fact that most people were high on quality coke. Not that kind. To his credit, Steven Spielberg, the director of the movie, seems to be particularly unsentimental. The book Ready Player One has a ton of references to his films, and he wasn't interested in including any of them. The film certainly still has those hooks. There are plot points that require a knowledge of popular culture in the 80s, and the backgrounds are full of things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Back to the Future, and Monty Python. The movie strips down to the essence of why I still enjoy the book. The overarching story is still great, a puzzle within a massively multiplayer role-playing game where you need to use the knowledge of outside media in order to unlock the clues. I basically wanted this game when I was a kid. I honestly believe that Spielberg may have been one of the only people to have pulled this off as well as he did. It's still a lot of fun, but emotionally detached, which is unfortunate because he's made a career of making us care about the characters in his films. But here we are, just meant to be along for the ride. There are splashes of character development, but it's the spectacle that is what's important here. The protagonist is more audience avatar than well-rounded character. I don't think this adherence to nostalgia is a new phenomenon. You've seen it with your grandparents who thought that their upbringing was the best. Your parents believed that their high school days were never topped. And now, and I'm including myself in this, we are encumbered with the feeling of our childhood when we see fluorescent lights and the songs of Duran Duran. This is easy to pervert. We can kid ourselves into believing that our political candidates will return us to the time that was great again. Star Wars was better when it was only focused on fun. Did you have a sitcom in the 90s? Well, we're all out of ideas. Why don't you just do that again? Maybe I shouldn't have waited until now to say this, but I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum. I want you to love loving things. I certainly do. But it turns gross when you only value that and believe that you, as a person, and your value are tied intrinsically to those things, when it couldn't be further from the truth. But I'd love to know what you think. Perhaps you have a better reason why nostalgia seems so prevalent in our society. Is that a good or bad thing? What's the one piece of media that you think will never be topped? And why is it the movie Clue? If you're interested in the story of Ready Player One, you can use my affiliate code down in the description. You can click on the link and you can read the book or listen to Will Reed read it to you. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Kyle. I upload videos every Monday and Thursday. If you liked what you watched, consider doing all the YouTube stuff to this video. If you'd like to help me make even better videos, you can become a supporter of mine over on my Patreon page for as little as $1 per month. But seriously, Hulk Hogan was the champion, the Ultimate Warrior was the Intercontinental Champion. It had never been done before, title versus title. Nobody cares.